everybody.
Good morning.
I hope everybody's excited as I am. I think our revival is going to be something special. But we'll be looking forward to that. So we're going to wrestle Joseph a little bit. I went back, and the one we missed, kind of read both lessons and went through them and wrestled through our one that would have been our October 26th that was called When Life Goes Terribly Wrong. We had such a, I think we had a good one with Abram, and this one really led right into the next section. If we get done with this one a little bit early, hit a little bit on, I did go ahead and try to read up a little bit so we could hit the one that was scheduled for today. But I don't know, just something just kept telling me last night to work on this one, and so that's what I did, and hopefully it'll all work out good. I really thought our Courtly did a really good job right off the get-go, kicking us into an example, not to be punny, but the giraffe example. So I don't know how many of y'all got to read that, but it basically describes the birth of a baby giraffe, and that thing falls from a great distance. I mean, I always watch calves being born, and I'm kind of amazed that they hit the ground. I mean, they don't, most of the time, if they're not having trouble, they usually don't lay down to have them. Horses falling. I never thought about a giraffe. And that young, innocent being hits the ground. That's the way it's, welcome to the world. You just smacked your head and everything else on the ground. And then the mama turns around and kicks it to get it up. Like, she doesn't nuzzle it to get it up. The way this thing's described, she kicks it. And then when it gets up, she knocks it right back down. And then as soon as it gets knocked back down, she gets it back up. And of course, the real life nature biology behind all of that is predator. I mean, she's preparing this young giraffe to be able to get up and run should they be attacked by a predator. I mean, a giraffe's a cool thing, and they're great big old things. They're not the most savvy animal they're not going to beat you with their head. I mean, there's not a whole lot they're going to do. Pack of wolves, they're very vulnerable. And when we started there, when I started with that last night, I just kept thinking about that. And as I was going through our lesson for today, it just kept resonating to me how vulnerable this creature was. There are things that are born into the world that aren't super vulnerable. I mean, there are birds that are hatched. They have a good, safe place. There are animals like bears that have a lot better way to take care of their young, and the young are that much tougher. But think about a human baby. I mean, it just kept reading. We are probably the most timid, tender creature that without a mother and or father or group's protection cannot exist. I mean, we have no hair on our bodies. Most people are born like Mark, and they don't. I mean, we can't even keep our head warm. Now, some babies come out with hair, but you were just so intent, Daniel. I just couldn't do it to you. Anyway, we come out. We're hairless, soft, tissued, very vulnerable. Babies are a little rubbery, I guess. But other than that, that's our defense. We can lay there and be rubbery, right? This is kind of the lesson as we follow Joseph in this thing. I'm going to try to take y'all basically kind of through. I mean, we'll hit our verses as we get there. But for those that haven't read the story in a long time, or just sing the song of Joseph in the coat of many colors, and you kind of know the story and you kind of don't know the story, I want to kind of walk us through the whole thing because it is definitely a story of perseverance. I mean, so we talked, like I said, the lesson before, and I know we've had a week between, but it just kept resonating with Abram. We talked about somebody that was willing to go and do, and somebody that was willing to follow, and somebody that was obedient, and that obedience came in. Well, this is not really an obedience. This is a true perseverance, and this is a guy that, if nothing else, through the dreams that had been revealed to him as a child, knew that when he was in these other situations, these things that he had seen had not come true. They had not come to pass. So I think that's part of the greatness of his story is, and we'll get into that in detail, is that he held tight when most of us would probably, we get raised up, which some of us never get raised up. We get raised up, we get knocked down, just like this giraffe. We get raised up again, and we get knocked down. And most of us would cave. Just like April said, most of us would be like, this ain't fair. I mean, I'm the first one. Fairness. I mean, ask White Little about fairness. I mean, he'll go off. My dad used to, fairness. And we've talked before what we think is fair and what God thinks is fair is a lot of times two different things, but still generally, if I get thrown in prison for false accusations, and I get sold into slavery because my brothers are jealous, I'm probably going to be pretty down about it. I mean, either down or ready to fight. But he kind of chooses this middle ground that I think is important for us to recognize. And he kind of chooses, there is a, the deeper I wrestled in this last night, there is a Christ-like comparison. There's several things there, and hopefully we'll get them. One thing I want to bring out before we chase him from, I'm going to try to chase him from birth to the reconciliation with his brothers real quick. But I wrote a note last night that when he was in prison, and I just want to hit that first, that he was in man's prison, not a prison created by God. Now, again, y'all know I love to fight these titles on this thing when life goes terribly wrong. I don't know if his life was really going terribly wrong or if he was actually living, the life that God had intended for him to live. And again, the Lord being omnipotent knows what he would do. And I don't think God creates Bible characters like, hey, I'm gonna make Marty a wandering guy and I'm gonna send him out in the woods for, he knows our heart, he knows our intentions, and he knows what our actions will be. I mean, I truly feel like, Marty has free will to do whatever action he wants, but God knows what that action will be, and that's why he uses certain people for certain things. I truly feel
Kris,
that.
God has to humble us before we learn to obey his word. He will humble us one way or the other.
Yeah.
And with Joseph, his father showed favoritism really bad.
Yep.
And that's what his brothers were. He liked to brag. He was spoiled.
He was. So we'll go there. So for you that don't know, I can tell you all 12 chapters as of this morning. But it starts in Genesis 37, and Joseph's story goes for basically 12 chapters. So it's a big part. There are some things that happen in between. But let's talk about, to start with, and I want to engage y'all. I know, Carla, you can't answer them all because you'll know them all. April, you can answer. Daniel. So do you guys understand that the first thing that got Joseph in trouble, that was not his fault? He had basically two dreams, right? And, of course, the worst thing about those was he told them. Not of anything or wrongdoing, don't get me wrong, but, he told the wrong people. There's just some things, you keep a secret with one person or two. He told the wrong people. But he had these two dreams, and basically, in one of them, anybody want to say the dreams so we can kind of review the list?
Well, one of them, he dreamed that his brothers would kneel down to him, and they did.
Yeah. You want to tell the other one, April? We got two dreams. Checking your facts. So one, Go ahead, Lonnie.
All the stars and the sun and the moon would bow down to him, and that was his brothers and his father and his mother.
Yeah, and then the one with the haystacks is basically the same. That his haystack, he has a dream about the haystacks, and his haystack is surrounded by other haystacks. And again, basically both dreams, the family would, he would be the leader of the family. His brothers and fathers, mothers, the whole group would bow down before him. So, anyway, that's how we start. Now, in my mind, as I went through this, I just could not help but keep in my mind, and we're getting ready to do this with our revival, Lonnie, is in Joseph's mind. Now, it never, I promise, I don't think it did, unless I missed it, Lonnie. I read and read and read. I don't know that it ever says, hey, Joseph held steadfast to his demeanor and to his actions because he knew these two dreams he had not come true yet. But let's look at it. When we get farther down the line and he gets into interpreting dreams, and he is a correct interpreter of dreams, and he truly has felt God tell him that he will be favored, he will do this, it has to be. I just don't think you can live through what he lived through and not have some level of faith that these things have not yet come to pass. It's just like, I think I mentioned, if you really look in Revelations, and we're not going there, but I really do think we're working on the end of times, but there are still things that have to come to pass. So, there are signs. So I think he, in his mind, had not yet fulfilled what he had been told would happen to him. So there's that. I think there's some comfort there of him. But basically, he goes out, he gets his coat of many colors, and everybody knows that part. And, his daddy's way overly proud of him and made a big deal about that he was favored over the others. Not a real good move, especially being one of the youngest. I mean, it's counterproductive to the Old Testament ways. And so he goes out to check on the brothers, tending the flock, comes across them, they come across him. There's a nice pit handy. Good idea, we'll just throw him in a pit. Now, to their credit, they didn't kill him.
They had talked about it.
They talked about it, and they decided to sell him into slavery. So then they take the coat back and, of course, start this lie that begins to get bigger and bigger. But, they put the animal blood on the coat and take it back to Daddy. And Daddy, I don't know what happened to Joseph. I guess something made him, right? Like, he was one of them unprotected giraffes, and that's what happened to him. So, let's start there with a question to you guys. And we talked the pride thing with the dad obviously is an issue. But let's talk about this obstacle that was actually within his own family. There's something for us to talk about there. His own family. Wasn't outside raiders, wasn't a famine at this point, wasn't a disease. His own family was this first huge obstacle. And they didn't care. I mean, honestly, selling him into slavery in certain instances in that time could have been worse than that, depending on what happened to him later down the line. But they're done with him, right? I mean, he's off the radar. But that wasn't God's plan. He was 17 when he was sold into slavery. Did y'all ever count how many pieces of silver? 20 pieces of silver is what they got for him. So I'm going to stop there. Now we know Jesus was sold for 30. And if Mike was here, I'd tell him it was inflation. But there's a point there. 20 pieces of silver, i.e. up to 30 in Jesus' time, was the going rate for a slave. Not even a good slave, just a slave. So it hit me right between the eyes, and I kind of went off on a tangent reading, but think about that, guys. Joseph was, he was sold, he shouldn't have been sold, he was innocent. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything wrong, inherently. He wasn't really bragging. He was just telling. Now, his dad and the coat and all that, it's a whole different story. But he was sold into slavery for 20 pieces of silver. betrayed by his family. The disciples were Christ's family. Christ was betrayed for 30 pieces of silver. And I'm sure, again, I always say Lonnie could preach a whole sermon on this, but think about how humbling it is and how demeaning it is that the Savior of the entire world and universe was betrayed for the price of the value of a slave. I mean, if somebody wanted Donald Trump tomorrow, right, like, and they were some nation, I mean, how many millions and billions of dollars would they have to pay to get to him, right? If somebody wanted some great scientist and they needed to capture them or come into possession of them, I mean, we live in our world. How many millions and billions of dollars would it take? You sure wouldn't get, I mean, I wouldn't go get, well, I might hit Jimmy Thompson in the knee for $2, but you wouldn't get somebody to do much of anything. Now, Mark, I don't know, are you for hire as a, but if you needed something bad to happen to them, it would cost you more than the price of a slave. I mean, that's just all there is to it. So I don't know, it just hit me that was so demeaning that our Lord and Savior was sold at that
But you
kind
got
of
to
price.
remember, Jesus didn't consider himself a normal person. Even in his scripture, he would teach he was a servant.
Yes. He was. So then we get this caravan, right? We'll follow Joseph on down through there. And he gets put in an actually pretty good position. He's favored when he gets there. You know why he's favored? God was with him. And I was going to go ahead and read all those to you, but I think we're going to get too deep into it, and we can look at them at the end. But there are, just in Genesis, you know, God was with him. You know, we talked about that with Abram. And then especially when you get to King David, God was with him. Why were they afraid of David? God was with him. I mean, I don't want to skip and make light of that part of the Sunday school lesson, but if you guys end up reading, like it's page 103 on this one, I don't know what it is in yours, but you know, Joshua, I had all three of these marked for you guys. Y'all go read them yourself. But Joshua 6:27, Samuel 3:19, and then David is talked about again in Samuel 18, verses 12, 14, and 28. All of those verses, without me reading them to you guys, I mean, they are marked. God was with you. The Lord was with you. You know, that's part of why he is able to endure, and part of why he is able to look at things from a different perspective. I mean, he didn't go, oh, I'm a slave, and just, I'm not going to do my thing, and I'm just going to get whipped and beat, and there's no use to live, it's the end of the world. He ended up getting favor with his captors, right? His owners. So, he gets a pretty sweet gig for a slave, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I watch a lot of old Western books and stuff and movies. I don't see none of them guys get that kind of a deal. I mean, he's basically the boss under this guy. I mean, when you go read the actual verses, he is Lord of the house other than his owner. And the only one thing that would be off limits to him is the wife. He didn't do nothing to his wife. Now here we got, and I'm not going to make no remark on it, we got a crazy woman here. He's living a good life. He's managing business for this guy. And this guy's wife decides she likes old Joseph. Joseph don't like her back. Okay? And when you read it, there are multiple attempts. I mean, this is not one of them little quick short stories, but multiple attempts on her part to seduce this man. The one thing he did that got him was he left evidence. She grabbed him, and he ran, and he turned and ran, and his garment was still in her possession. So once she had decided that he wasn't going to yield to or succumb to what her temptations were, she made up a story. Here we're going to get lied to again. I done got thrown in a pit, and now I'm doing pretty good for myself. And now this crazy woman I didn't want nothing to do with is going to get me killed. Now, obviously, and I think our book, somewhere I had read, yeah, so actually in our quarterly, it says there's speculation that Joseph did not suffer more severely due to Potiphar perhaps being not completely convinced of the guilt. Because honestly, it says here, that had he have raped or assaulted her, however you want to put it, would have probably been death sentence for him in his position, especially in a higher position, but still under a slavery. So, at least there was some common sense here, but again, who was with him?
God.
God was with him, right? I mean, God gets us out of whales. God gets us out of the den. I mean, he's with him. I mean, we're working. We're building this new character. All right, so now we're in prison. This stinks. I mean, these prisons are roundhouses. At that point, Lonnie, they're kind of not what we think prison is. Sometimes they're caves. Sometimes they're like, this one was described with a bunch of people was like a round house. But I mean, it ain't good. Trust me. I mean, Asheville, I'm sure would look like, Las Vegas to these guys. But he gets there, and we have these two guys. We got a baker and a butler. And they're in here with him. And basically, they confide in him for whatever reason. My reason would be God is with him. These guys at least could feel God is with him. And they were like, do the interpretations of your dreams not belong to God? I mean, he mentions God to these people. We're still Old Testament, so we're not testimony about Jesus, but he's an obedient servant to his God. He mentions God.
Well, their God was completely different, though.
Yeah.
It was Egyptian
Yeah.
gods compared to his God.
Right.
So.
Absolutely, and he's a Hebrew. I was going to run that rabbit for a while, but there's a whole thing about him. Y'all need to read up on, that he is truly called a Hebrew, and then that ceases to happen as we move down the path. But he says, "Tell me, then I pray you. Tell me your dream. So look, tell me what happened to you." So they had to have a fair amount of faith in this man to even bother. I mean, I don't think they were just bored, and I think they were somewhat, I don't know if you would call it convicted, Lonnie, but somewhat led, again, through, I really feel, God's presence upon Joseph to even confide in him. I mean, we already see what a little bit of confiding does in these days and times. Joseph told somebody a dream, he got threw in a pit and got sent to be a slave, and then, it probably no good coming out of sharing this information. But he interprets these guys' dreams, and, the first one, he basically was able to see that the butler and baker, I'll just make sure I get y'all straight, but the butler had come to him, and he said in 3 days he would be restored to his position in Pharaoh's court. And the baker's dream was not such a good outcome. The chief baker was to be hanged. The interpretation of his, and it says hold up his head. So when you read back in the verses, it was hold up his cup. He's good. You good. That's the cup. That's your normal job. You get to go back doing your job. And when it was hold up his head, that ain't so good because there's vines and you're getting hung. I mean, it ain't gonna work out. But what I think the Christ comparison starts to me right here. Because Pharaoh's having trouble sleeping now. Alright? Our baker has been executed. Our butler has been restored to his position. And exactly what Joseph told these two cats happened. What's really horrible is Joseph says, hey, baker, by the way, or butler, when you get back, you're holding that cup again. Will you tell him about it?
And he didn't.
No, he didn't tell him about it. But I went back to that thief on that cross when he looked at Christ and said, the difference in man and anointed, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Man, he just interpreted his dream and told him good news. And it all came true. And he forgot him like that. Now, why would that not, and that's where I stopped right there, why would that not weigh on this man's mind?
Well, he didn't forget it for days. He forgot it for years.
For 2 years. He forgot it for 2 years. But let's talk about that.
Do we really think he forgot it or just avoided it? Like,
there you go.
I think back to your point.
Might seem a little braggarty to go up to Pharaoh and say, I knew I was coming back.
Exactly.
Yeah. But to your point, I think he had every opportunity to be a spoiled brat type attitude and wallow in his circumstances, but I think he was called by the Spirit to not, trial after trial and just, obviously the Spirit was with him or the people around him wouldn't have noticed it.
Oh yeah, he was drawn. Marty, people were pulled to this man. Whether they knew it was God, there was a pull. Random prisoners, I don't even want to know what random prisoners normally talk about, but it ain't about interpreting each other's dreams. So something came in here and pulled these people to him. And this guy that forgets this for 2 years, has anything good come so far of anybody that told anybody what their dream was and how it was interpreted out? I don't know that it would have been the best thing, like Lonnie said, for him to go, that old boy down there in the prison, he told me he was going to let me out. He's smart. He's great. But for whatever reason, his request was denied. So 2 years goes by. Pharaoh's having his bad dreams, right? No, he brings in, they even mention the word magicians, which is crazy. But they bring in, pagan, whatever it takes, you guys, and honestly, it's Pharaoh ain't sleeping good. We got to do something.
Nobody's good if
nobody's wife ain't happy, nobody's happy. Pharaoh ain't happy, nobody's happy. And all of a sudden, they remember Joseph. So he's, again, of course, he's on this. I really want to say these guys are all on this higher path. And they take the high road. There's a lot of, true imagery there. But these servants of God are on a higher path. They're on a higher calling. And so bring him in. He interpreted the dreams. And it was basically, and this is where we're going to go just a little farther than our is Pharaoh had basically, so there was predicted to be 7 years of good, and there will be good crop, good corn, everything's going to be great, and then 7 years of famine. And so, Pharaoh had enough faith in whatever he felt, Marty, that whatever magnetism, even though that wasn't his God, he had enough magnetism, he felt that this was correct. So as a wise guy, he took advice from somebody else, and he started laying up the stores of grain over the 7 good years and managed it well. Well, then all of a sudden we have this famine. We got some bad years. Pharaoh looks like a genius, because this was all prophesied out through the interpretation of these dreams. And so now we get back to Joseph and his family. Guess who comes needing food?
His brothers.
His brothers. Guess why the food was there? Now, at this point, guys, now Joseph is second in command, period.
Under Pharaoh.
Under Pharaoh. He answers to nobody. So as we talked about, he got lifted up by his daddy, kicked in the teeth by his brothers, sold into slavery as low as he could get, works his way back up. He's the second in command of a household, gets kicked in the teeth again, goes to prison, gets brought back up, and now he's not second in the household, he's second in the kingdom. He's second. He's number 2 man. You need anything, call him, because I'm sure Pharaoh's taking a bath. Just, call Joseph. He's got all that. But his brothers come. And real quickly, because I think it's super important to the whole point of perseverance, they come and they've never seen him. I mean, this is 22 years later. He's 30. He was 17. It's 23. 22 to 23 years.
He looks like an Egyptian. He doesn't look like a Jewish.
Dresses like Egyptian. His beard's like.
Speaks.
So they ain't going to know him. God, do you think he forgot them?
No, he knew.
He knew them when they showed up. So, without dragging y'all through too much of it, he takes them in and he gives them a test. Because he knows they're not spies. He knows they're his brother. But he basically says, all right, here, you guys go back. We'll give you a little bit of corn, but you tell me you're of this guy, and there's 11 sons, and there's one back, and this all sounds fishy, and he basically gives them a task that don't come back and see me again without bringing that youngest.
Benjamin.
And Benjamin's the one setting it home. But don't come back to me, lest I'm going to kill you. Jamie, lest you die. We always laugh about it. But anyway, lest he die, don't come back without him. So then they come back with him eventually after they cipher it over, and there's a lot of discussion at the house that ain't a real good idea to take him. But they do get back, and then he sets them up one more time. They stick a cut. Benjamin's back. And then he sends out his guys to catch him. He set them up, to see what they would say. And then they truly defended their youngest. And I think Joseph could see in that maybe they're not as bad as I thought they were. They kind of passed my test, my sniff test on this. Because, he could have him executed for anything. He could have got revenge. They could have all been slaves of his the minute they crossed the line. He didn't even he didn't have to get squirrely with it. He could have commanded it. And he wouldn't have even had to hit it. He could have just said, hey guys. And I think part of it, Lonnie, he does hear that his dad is still alive. I don't think it's completely selfless. He wants to see his father. And of course, he kills all them, and that's all out the door too. But there's a reconciliation. There's basically a great reconciliation. That's what I wanted to get to. And our Portley does a good job, talking about with Joseph and the bakers being restored. But it's kind of this Christ-like path of really he didn't do anything wrong. He gets blamed for a lot of stuff. He gets taken down into places he shouldn't have never been drugged down into, and he's able to overcome and basically make the best out of it, and he perseveres throughout with God's love. I want to show y'all one verse that I did mark, and it's Genesis 50. I marked half of Genesis, so we won't do all that. But Genesis 50, verses 15 through 17. Make sure I'm there, Lonnie. I'm there. And when Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead, and when Joseph will peradventure hate us, and will certainly requite us all the evil which we did unto him. And they sent a messenger unto Joseph, saying, thy father did command before he died, saying, So shall ye say unto Joseph, Forgive, I pray thee now, the trespass of thy brethren, and thy sin, for what they did unto thee evil. And now we pray thee, forgive trespass of the servants of the God of thy father. And Joseph wept when they spake to him. So, I should have gave you a little context. They lied one more time. They lied one more time. They couldn't leave well enough alone. The father, basically in their mind, was still kind of what had kept them alive through all this betrayal. I mean, again, Joseph could have snapped his fingers and had anything done to any one of these guys. He could have got full of revenge, whatever you want to call it. But his father was kind of the keystone to this whole deal. They go as the last thing that they literally do and lie to him. He didn't know what his dad said. So, just to save their own skin. And the reason I wrote that down, it's think about the perseverance of Joseph and the godliness of him and the path that he was on, this higher path, higher dollar. And then think about these scoundrels. I mean, guys, these guys are scoundrels. Guess who else is scoundrels? Pretty much every one of us sitting in here right now. I mean, I think we're forced to look at, I'm going to bring that bottle up every day on time, but in the world, of the world, good and bad, following and obeying, not following and obeying. I mean, these guys were scoundrels. They had lied, cheated their way through the entire process, while Joseph followed God's command, knew God would keep his word to him. He knew these dreams, the things that would happen. He did become ruler over his family. I just, that parallel, I think is just crazy. And there is I'm not going to put him near on that pedestal. It's not my place to put him on any pedestal, but it does have like a Christ-like path. And the other thing I wanted to tell y'all about Joseph is he ruled for 80 years. So we talked about this short time and short amounts of what we can bear. Like that God doesn't give us anything more than we can handle. Okay, at 17 I'm a slave. At 30 I've kind of got all my stuff back together. And then I get to rule in Egypt for 80 years. He died at 110. So your slavery didn't hurt him that bad. The other thing that's really neat is he did not get to leave Egypt as a living being. And when he died, he had requested that he be taken out of Egypt at some point to the land of Canaan, the promised land. Guess who went and got his old bones for him? And that's going to take us into, we'll try to figure out, does anybody know who took his old bones?
Moses, Jacob.
During Exodus. They went back and got the man that he served so faithfully, and they took his bones and they carried them with him. I mean, that's a great honor at that time. I mean, Lord of mercy. You can't get somebody to go get somebody a hamburger, much less go back and get their bones and put them in a bag and carry them across the line. That was a little bit shorter than I thought it was going to be, but there's nothing wrong with that. Let's talk. Is there anything else you guys want to pull? And I know I kind of pulled a hoodoo on you. I think we skipped me 1 week, so whatever gets taught next week, I'll follow up with the right date or what's still in order. I just hated to miss this one, and there's nothing wrong with the Moses and the Exodus story. Something just kept pulling me back saying, the coat of many colors, and that's great. I mean, that's the kid version of it. But it's worth your read. Just don't do it at 3 a.m. the night before church, or your hair will be standing up like mine. But it is worth the read.
One of the reasons his brothers were so against things that were happening with Joseph is they had seen Joseph's mother Rachel was the chosen. She was the one that was loved, and they had seen how their mothers were treated.
Yeah, and you know, remember, I should, Carla, that was a really good point. That's why Lonnie's Lonnie and I'm me. But they're half brothers. He has one full brother, right?
Benjamin.
And that's why he wanted to see him. I mean, he, you know, he had not get, you know, he was bad. He was not with him. Hey, Carl, Lonnie, I'm gonna give you one. I'm gonna give you one AI thing this morning, and I'll quit. I laid this thing down last night, and this is the weirdest thing. I swear he's standing here. I laid that down. It was like 3 in the morning, and because I thought I had my lesson, and I just kept reading. I laid it down, and I don't know why. Like this is Jamie's singing on Jeeps and stuff. That little saying that's on the back glass of things that say, "All who wander are not lost." Right? I don't know if y'all have seen that. Well, I was like, that's why in the world did I just think of that? And I was like, well, that's got to be biblical. And I was like, no, you know who wrote it, Lonnie? I know you probably do. J.R. Tolkien wrote that little saying. It sounds biblical.
To the Hobbit.
For the Hobbit, yeah. So I'll give you all this little quick fact. So there's in the book, there's a little poem in the book, The Hobbit. It says, but now think about it, this could be in our good book. All that is gold does not glitter, not all who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither, deep roots are not reached by the frost. And I was like, that has to be biblical. I just kept like searching, and I kept searching, and of course it's not. I mean, they said that Tolkien was not a non-Christian. I don't know that he was a professor. He's about the 50s, I think, when he wrote 30s. Was it 30s? You didn't read it when it came out, did you?
No.
But anyway, I kept searching and I kept searching, and so I'm gonna close with this. And I promise this didn't come out of Scripture because I just told you it wasn't there. But we were talking about perseverance, and I was like, why am I thinking about the Hobbit? Like, why did this pop in my head? So I went to my Lord, perseverance, Hobbit, combined meaning between perseverance and all who wander are not lost. And this was, I promise, 1:06 a.m. The journey, I love this. The journey of self-discovery in the pursuit of a non-traditional path will inevitably involve setbacks, challenges which require perseverance. The perseverance is what distinguishes a purpose, a wanderer, from someone who is genuinely lost and directionless. The wanderer persists with a vision or an inner calling, even if the destination isn't immediately clear to others. Embracing a period of wandering and personal exploration, coupled with the perseverance to keep moving forward, can ultimately lead to personal growth and the discovery of one's true path or destiny. And there's nothing scriptural about that. But it ties.
There is a part of the New Testament that talks about character. Let's see, I can't remember what it is, but it's.
That's why he's on it slower.
No, like going through trouble. You know what I'm talking about? I'll find it.
Not the labor and heavy burden.
Well, you were talking about the roots that run deep. Well, you've got to think about, we are in that group with the same roots. Our roots run deep, and it's through Abraham and his covenant with God.
I'm just throwing out there. I didn't want to stand out here and teach the Hobbit. But something said those who wander are not
Well,
lost.
maybe that message for you was to let you know that your roots do run deep in God.
Now, it might be that I needed to just say, hey guys, Lonnie was there when the first volume of The Hobbit was published. And he's the first in line. No. But there is, I mean, guys, if we're God watching and we're doing what we're supposed to be, it doesn't.
I was
have
just
to.
reading this in 1966.
You really been reading it in 1966. But it doesn't always, guys, I mean, it doesn't always. It all comes from here, but it doesn't always have to come from here. So, anyway, I'll leave you all that. Maybe it's time to get everybody in the door. Hope that was okay. And like I said, who's teaching next? You know, did you, Mark?
It's Kris.
Curtis, okay. Like I said, I'll make sure.
Jeff Matheson.
Oh, it's Jeff. Okay. So Jeff's a rule follower. So I guarantee he does the lesson for the week. I'm just kidding, Jeff, if you watch this. Anyway, guys, I'll just follow up with whatever week he leaves. I'll go to the next week, and I should have went on Church Messenger and told y'all I was going to do this because I know some of you study and you're probably ready to talk about Moses.
Well, let me tell you, that sitting through 33 weeks of the patriarchs of the Bible, you learn quite a bit.
Thank you, guys. Oh, that's awesome. Can I borrow that? That's yours. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, gosh, that is so great. Gosh, that is great. Oh, thank you so much. That is awesome. I'll put that on. Thanks a lot.
23rd, that's when our Thanksgiving is.
I probably used that last night. I was trying to figure out how to spell